The door swung open without warning, freezing Aiden in place as the video played on his laptop. His father's eyes widened in horror at the intimate confession on screen. The words, "I love Ethan," echoing in the sudden silence that would upend their entire world. Aiden slammed the laptop shut, his heart hammering so hard he could feel it in his throat. Robert Thompson stood there in the doorway of the small bedroom in their suburban Chicago home. His face pale and his shoulders rigid like he had just witnessed something impossible. The afternoon light filtered through the blinds, casting long shadows across the posters of city skylines and half-finished art sketches that Aiden had pinned to the walls since college. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Aiden's mind raced back to the video he had been replaying, a private recording from last summer where Ethan had looked straight into the camera during their weekend getaway and poured out feelings they had kept hidden for 2 years. It was meant for Aiden's eyes only, a reminder on tough days that someone saw him completely. Now it had been seen by the one person Aiden feared most. Robert turned on his heel without a word, the floor creaking under his work boots as he disappeared down the hallway. Aiden sat there, breath shallow, the weight of what had just happened pressing down like a stone. He grabbed his phone with shaking hands and texted Ethan, "Dad saw the video. Everything's falling apart." The reply came almost instantly, "I'm at the usual spot. Come now. We'll figure this out." Aiden slipped out the back door before his mother could notice, the cool autumn air hitting his face as he jogged the 6 blocks to the small coffee shop near the train station where they always met when things got heavy. Ethan was already there, his light brown hair tousled from the wind, wearing the faded denim jacket Aiden had given him on their first anniversary. They found a corner table away from the afternoon crowd, and Aiden spilled everything in a rush, the door opening, the screen still glowing, his father's expression like he had been slapped. Ethan reached across the table and squeezed his hand, the touch grounding Aiden in a way nothing else could. "Hey, breathe. This doesn't change us. You've been carrying this alone too long." Aiden nodded, but inside he felt the familiar knot of fear tighten. Growing up in this neighborhood where every barbecue and block party revolved around football scores and church potlucks, being different had always felt like a secret too dangerous to voice. He remembered the way his father had clapped him on the back after high school graduation, proud of the real man he was becoming, and now that image lay shattered. They talked for hours as the sun dipped lower, Ethan sharing stories of his own early struggles at the marketing firm downtown, where whispers about his personal life sometimes lingered in the break room. Aiden felt a flicker of relief knowing he wasn't alone, but the image of his father's face haunted him. By the time he headed home that evening, the house was quiet except for the television murmuring in the living room. His mother, Laura, glanced up from her book but said nothing, though her eyes lingered a second too long. Aiden retreated to his room, the laptop now closed and unplugged like evidence he wished he could bury. Sleep came in fragments, dreams mixing memories of Ethan's laugh with the heavy silence from his father. The next morning brought no explosion, only avoidance. Robert left for his construction site before dawn, and Aiden sat at the kitchen table picking at toast while Laura poured coffee. "Everything okay with your dad?" she asked softly, her voice carrying that careful tone she used when sensing trouble. Aiden shrugged, the lie tasting bitter. He spent the day wandering the city, sketching on his tablet at a park bench near the lake, trying to process the shift. Ethan called during lunch, his voice steady. "If you need space, take it, but don't shut me out. We're in this together." The words helped, yet Aiden couldn't shake the guilt twisting in his chest, the fear that his truth might fracture the family he had always tried to protect. By evening, the tension simmered. Robert returned, his boots thudding heavier than usual. He didn't mention the video, but the way he avoided eye contact at dinner said everything. Plates clinked in awkward silence, and Aiden excused himself early, heart racing as he wondered how long this standoff could last. In the quiet of his room, he replayed the video once more on low volume, Ethan's words wrapping around him like a lifeline. This was who he was, not a phase, not a mistake, but a man who loved another man with a depth that scared him sometimes. The realization settled deeper that night. Hiding had kept the peace, but it had also kept him half alive. Tomorrow he would have to face it head-on, no matter the cost. The following days blurred into a careful dance of avoidance in the Thompson household. Aiden threw himself into his part-time job at the downtown gallery, curating exhibits that ironically featured artists exploring identity and connection. Each brush with a customer who lingered over a painting of two figures intertwined reminded him of the video still burning in his father's mind. Ethan texted encouragement every morning. Simple things like, "You got this," or photos of the skyline from his office window. And they met twice that week at a quiet pier along the lake. There, under the gray Chicago sky, Ethan listened as Aiden unpacked the years of quiet doubt that had started in high school when he first noticed the way his gaze lingered on teammates rather than the cheerleaders everyone expected. "I always thought if I just worked harder, dated the right girls on paper, it would fade," Aiden admitted one evening, waves lapping at their feet. Ethan nodded, pulling him into a hug that smelled of coffee and city rain. "It doesn't fade. It just waits until you're ready." Back home, the cracks widened. Laura started asking gentle questions during breakfast, her voice laced with worry she tried to mask. "Your dad's been quiet lately. You two fight." Aiden dodged, but the weight pressed harder. One afternoon, Robert finally broke the silence in the garage while tinkering with an old truck engine. "That video. It wasn't what I thought it was." "Who is this Ethan?" The question hung heavy, oil-stained hands gripping a wrench. Aiden's pulse quickened, but he met his father's eyes. "He's my boyfriend, Dad. Has been for 2 years. Robert's face tightened. Not in rage, but something closer to disbelief mixed with pain. He set the tool down and walked away again, leaving Aiden standing amid the scent of grease and regret. That night, Aiden lay awake replaying the conversation. The internal storm raged. Part of him wanted to run to Ethan's apartment across town and never look back, while another clung to the memories of family camping trips and his father's proud grin at Little League games. He texted Ethan late. "He knows your name now. It's real." The reply came with a call, Ethan's calm voice cutting through the dark. "This is the hard part, but it's also the beginning. You don't have to carry it alone anymore." They talked until Aiden's eyes grew heavy, the bond between them feeling like the only steady thing in a shifting world. The weekend brought a small mercy when Ethan suggested a drive to the suburbs for fresh air. They parked near a quiet trail, leaves crunching underfoot as they walked side by side. Ethan shared his own story of coming out to his sister years ago, the initial tears turning to fierce support. Aiden felt a spark of hope, but it dimmed when he returned home to find Robert sitting at the kitchen table with an old photo album open. Pictures of a younger Robert and his late brother Mark stared back. Mark with an arm around a friend at a college party, smiles wide. Robert didn't explain, just closed the book and left the room. The gesture lingered like an unanswered question, stirring something deeper in Aiden's chest. Maybe the silence wasn't just anger. Maybe it was fear of something buried long ago. Monday arrived with Aiden deciding to test the waters further. He invited Ethan for a casual dinner at a neutral spot, a pizza place near the train line. Over slices, they laughed about work mishaps, Ethan's latest campaign idea for a local nonprofit, and Aiden's latest sketch series inspired by their lake walks. The normalcy felt like a breath of fresh air, yet Aiden's mind kept drifting to the house waiting for him. When he got home, Laura pulled him aside in the hallway. "I talked to your dad. He's processing, honey. Just give him time." Her words offered a sliver of comfort, but Aiden knew time alone wouldn't bridge the gap. He needed to keep showing up as himself, even if it meant more painful conversations. That resolve carried him into sleep, Ethan's goodnight text glowing on his phone screen like a promise. The week stretched on with small steps. Aiden started leaving subtle hints around the house. A book on LGBTQ history on the coffee table. A framed photo of him and Ethan at a museum exhibit tucked in his room. Robert noticed but said nothing, though his glances grew less sharp. Ethan, ever steady, planned a low-key date night at a comedy club downtown. where laughter eased the tension in Aiden's shoulders for the first time in days. Walking back to the car afterward, hand in hand under streetlights, Aiden felt the pull of gratitude. "I don't know what I'd do without you," he murmured. Ethan smiled, squeezing tighter. "You won't have to find out." Back home, the house lights were off, but Aiden sensed the shift. The storm was building, not fading. He just hoped they could weather it together. Tension coiled tighter as October winds swept through Chicago, scattering leaves across the Thompson driveway like scattered thoughts. Aiden returned from the gallery one evening to find Robert waiting in the living room, the old photo album open again on the couch. "We need to talk," his father said, voice low and strained. Aiden sat, heart pounding, as Robert flipped to a faded picture of Mark laughing with a group of friends at a beach bonfire. "Your uncle. He was like you. Or at least, he tried to tell us once." The revelation hit like a wave, stunning Aiden into silence. Robert continued, words tumbling out in fragments. How Mark had confided in him late one night about feelings for another man. How their own father had shut it down hard, calling it weakness. How Mark had spiraled and eventually taken his own life at 25. "I watched it happen and did nothing. I thought if I buried it, it would stay buried. Then I saw that video of you and Ethan. It was like seeing Mark all over again." Aiden's mind reeled, the family truth unfolding in layers he never expected. This wasn't just rejection. It was guilt his father had carried for decades, shaping every expectation he placed on his son. "I can't lose you the same way," Robert finished, eyes glassy. The confession left Aiden torn. Empathy for the man who had raised him clashing with the anger at years of unspoken pressure. He left the room quietly, texting Ethan immediately. "Dad just told me about Uncle Mark. It's bigger than I thought." They met at their pier spot again, the lake reflecting city lights as Aiden poured out the details. Ethan listened, then shared his own family history of quiet acceptance from his parents after initial shock. "Your dad's hurting too. That doesn't make it right, but it explains a lot." The misunderstanding hit hard the next day when Robert overheard Aiden on the phone with Ethan planning a weekend trip. "You're throwing everything away for this?" he snapped, voice cracking with old fears. Aiden stood his ground. "This isn't throwing away. This is finally living." The argument escalated, words flying about sacrifice and responsibility, until Laura stepped in, tears in her eyes, pleading for calm. Aiden stormed out, driving aimlessly until he pulled over near a park and called Ethan in tears. "He thinks I'm making the same mistake as Mark. I don't know how to make him see it's different." Ethan's voice anchored him. "Show him by being steady. We don't have to rush anything." Days blurred with work and stolen moments. At the gallery, a colleague made a casual remark about settling down with a nice girl, and Aiden felt the familiar sting of societal eyes. He sketched furiously during breaks, images of intertwined figures emerging that captured the ache and hope he carried. Ethan surprised him with tickets to a local art fair, where they wandered booths hand in hand, the public display feeling both liberating and terrifying. A brief run-in with an old high school friend who raised an eyebrow added another layer of external pressure, forcing Aiden to confront how much he had hidden even from himself. That night, alone in his room, he journaled the swirling emotions. The love for Ethan that felt like home, the loyalty to family that pulled like an anchor, the identity he was finally claiming. Robert kept distance, but small changes appeared. He left the photo album on Aiden's bed one morning, a silent olive branch. Laura encouraged quiet dinners where conversation stayed surface level, yet the air felt less charged. Aiden and Ethan faced their own test when Ethan's boss hinted at a promotion that required more travel, pulling them apart temporarily. "I won't go if it hurts us," Ethan offered during a late-night call, but Aiden insisted he take it. The sacrifice stung, yet it strengthened their bond, proving choices could coexist with love. As leaves fell heavier, Aiden sensed the turning point approaching. Not resolution yet, but a fragile understanding cracking open the walls they had all built. Winter's first frost dusted the Chicago suburbs, mirroring the chill that lingered in the Thompson home despite the revelations. Aiden woke to a text from Ethan already on the road for his work trip. "Miss you already. Call tonight." The distance amplified everything, forcing Aiden to lean into the conversations with his father that had started haltingly after the uncle's story. One evening, Robert joined him in the garage again, this time handing over an old letter Mark had written years ago, pages filled with confusion, love, and pleas for acceptance that had gone unanswered. "I kept this hidden because reading it hurt too much," Robert admitted, voice rough. "Seeing you with that video, it brought it all back. I was scared I'd repeat the silence that killed him." Aiden read the words, tears blurring the ink, and for the first time felt the full weight of his father's internal war. The family truth wasn't just past pain. It was a mirror forcing Robert to question every choice he had made to fit the mold. Misunderstandings piled up when Laura accidentally mentioned Ethan's name at a neighborhood gathering, sparking whispers that reached back to Aiden through old friends. One called him, voice laced with awkward concern, "Dude, is everything okay? Heard some stuff." The betrayal of privacy stung, pushing Aiden to confront the societal judgment he had feared. He met Ethan via video call that night, the screen separating them physically but not emotionally. "This is harder than I thought," Aiden confessed. "But I'm not backing down." Ethan nodded from his hotel room, eyes steady. "Neither am I. We'll get through the distance too." The sacrifice moment came unexpectedly during a family dinner gone sideways. Robert pressed about Aiden's future, job stability, settling down, the old patterns resurfacing under stress. Aiden stood, voice calm but firm. "Dad, I love Ethan. This isn't a phase. If that means some things change, I'm okay with that." Robert's face crumpled, the guilt from Mark's memory flashing across it. He left the table without finishing, and Aiden followed to the backyard, where snow flurries began to fall. There, under the porch light, Robert spoke of his own youth, a brief connection with a college roommate that he had buried to marry Laura and build the life everyone expected. "I thought I could forget, but seeing you live it, it makes me wonder what I lost." The admission stunned Aiden, revealing layers of his father's identity crisis that mirrored his own. They didn't hug, but the silence that followed felt different, heavy with possibility instead of anger. Ethan returned midweek, and they reunited at the pier, the cold air sharpening every embrace. Aiden shared the latest breakthrough, and Ethan listened, then offered his own vulnerability. "I was ready to step back if it saved your family. But hearing this, I know we fight for both." The decision to stand firm tested them further when a work colleague of Ethan's made a pointed comment about lifestyle choices at a team event Aiden attended. The confrontation left Ethan rattled, prompting a long talk about balancing careers and truth. Aiden felt the growth in himself, no longer the scared young man hiding videos, but someone choosing actions with clear consequences. As holidays approached, small steps built momentum. Robert asked tentative questions about Ethan over coffee one morning, awkward but genuine. Laura watched with quiet hope, her support a steady bridge. Aiden sketched a new series, figures reaching across divides, and shared one with his father, who studied it silently before nodding. The internal conflicts eased slightly, but Aiden knew the path ahead held more tests. Ethan's presence grounded him, their love a quiet force reshaping what family could mean. Snow blanketed Chicago as December deepened, turning the suburbs into a hushed landscape that matched the careful rebuilding happening inside the Thompson house. Aiden and Ethan celebrated a quiet anniversary with dinner at a small Italian place downtown, toasting to the year that had forced so much into the open. "We've come farther than I ever imagined," Ethan said, clinking glasses, his eyes reflecting the candlelight. Aiden felt the truth of it, the misunderstandings that had nearly broken them, the societal pressures that tested their resolve, the sacrifices like Ethan's delayed promotion talks that they had navigated together. Back home, Robert left a note on the fridge. "Bring Ethan by for coffee sometime." The invitation, simple as it was, marked a pivotal shift. Yet Aiden approached it with guarded hope, knowing old wounds healed slowly. The high point arrived during a family gathering at Christmas Eve when an uncle from out of town dropped by, the conversation turning to old stories about Mark. Robert spoke up unexpectedly, voice steady. "Mark deserved better from us. I see that now because of Aiden." The room fell quiet, eyes turning to Aiden, who felt exposed but also seen. Later, in the kitchen with Ethan helping clear dishes, Robert pulled them aside. "I was wrong to push silence. Your video, it opened doors I thought were nailed shut." The words carried the weight of years, and Aiden's chest loosened as he realized the family truth had not just stunned his father but freed him too. Yet tension flared when Robert admitted lingering worries about the world's judgment, prompting Aiden to share stories of his gallery work where diversity was celebrated daily. The exchange ended without resolution but with understanding, a step toward the awakening they all needed. External pressures mounted when Aiden faced a workplace evaluation that subtly questioned his focus. Whispers from colleagues linking back to neighborhood gossip. He confronted it head-on in a meeting, stating his personal life strengthened his creativity, not distracted it. Ethan faced similar challenges during a client pitch, where assumptions about his relationship nearly cost a deal until he stood firm. These moments forged deeper resilience, their late-night calls turning into plans for a shared future, perhaps an apartment together once Aiden saved enough. The betrayal of old expectations felt raw, but each choice reinforced the growth. Aiden no longer viewed his identity as a burden, but as a strength shaping decisions with clear eyes. A quiet crisis hit when Laura expressed her own fears one snowy afternoon. "I just want you both safe and happy." Her tears revealed the ripple effects on the whole family, forcing Aiden to reflect on the hyphens between love and loyalty. He and Ethan spent an evening brainstorming ways to include everyone. Invitations to gallery openings, shared holidays, small bridges across the divide. Robert joined a conversation that night about Mark's letters, reading one aloud and admitting how it had haunted his parenting. The vulnerability stunned Aiden again, highlighting his father's own journey from suppression to tentative acceptance. As midnight approached, Aiden stepped outside with Ethan under falling snow, their embrace warm against the cold. "We're building something real," Ethan whispered. Aiden nodded, the internal peace settling deeper despite the road ahead. The month closed with Aiden realizing the turning tide. Confrontations had given way to conversations, misunderstandings to mutual respect. Yet he knew the true test lay in sustaining it through the new year, choices echoing in every quiet moment. New Year's lights twinkled across Chicago as Aiden stood on the rooftop with Ethan, the city sprawling below like a promise of fresh starts. The past months had reshaped everything, from the shocking discovery that forced hidden truths into light to the slow unfolding of family acceptance that no one had anticipated. Robert had invited Ethan to a quiet New Year's dinner earlier that evening. The table conversation stilted at first but warming as stories flowed about shared interests in sports and travel. Laura beamed quietly, her support a constant thread. Aiden watched his father laugh at one of Ethan's jokes, the sound easing years of tension in a way words never could. The family truth, Robert's buried past, Mark's unspoken pain, had not destroyed them but forged a new foundation, one built on honesty rather than silence. Aiden and Ethan slipped away after midnight, climbing to the rooftop where they had shared so many talks. Snow crunched underfoot as they embraced, the cold air sharp but their connection steady. "I can't believe how far we've come," Aiden said, voice thick with emotion. Ethan pulled back slightly, eyes meeting his. "You chose you. That changed everything." Reflections flooded Aiden. The internal crises that had nearly consumed him, the societal stares he had learned to meet with confidence, the sacrifices that tested but ultimately strengthened their bond. He thought of the video that started it all, no longer a secret to fear but a catalyst for growth. Robert's awakening had mirrored his own, both men confronting identities shaped by fear and emerging clearer on the other side. The weeks that followed brought practical steps. Aiden moving some belongings to Ethan's place as a trial, Robert asking for updates on their plans without judgment, Family dinners where laughter replaced awkward pauses. Misunderstandings faded as everyone chose listening over assumptions. Aiden's gallery work flourished with new pieces inspired by the journey. Figures reaching, connecting, healing. Ethan secured the promotion, balancing travel with weekends home, their love a quiet anchor. The consequences of every decision rippled outward, proving that truth, though painful at first, could lead to deeper connections than pretense ever allowed. As spring hinted in the thawing ground, Aiden stood in the backyard with his father one afternoon, watching birds return. "I'm proud of the man you've become," Robert said simply, the words carrying the weight of all they had faced. Aiden felt the full circle, from the stunned silence in his bedroom to this moment of mutual respect. Ethan joined them later, the three sharing coffee under budding trees, the family redefined not by perfection but by the courage to evolve. Aiden knew challenges would come, external pressures, internal doubts, but the tools to face them were now shared. In the end, the path had led to a place where love between men wasn't hidden but celebrated. Family bonds tested and renewed through sacrifice and understanding. True or false? A parent's past trauma always justifies delaying acceptance of their child's true identity?